Pity we're not drinking red wine, really, because if we were, we could drink from the chalice of blood.
There may be a reason I didn't choose it.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I've been really restraining myself all day from doing drink from the chalice of blood.
It was just...
that is your most famous speech, right, in politics?
It is, and in politics sometimes an opportunity presents itself.
To go nuts in the Senate.
Absolutely. But quite literally, you know, a lot of people have said to me, was that planned? 110% no.
This was the speech that you gave in the Senate after the offing of Julia Gillard.
Correct. It was actually the final day of the sitting of the Senate.
Right.
And it was the final piece of legislation.
Yeah.
We'd gone into a process where we were literally time constrained, and so Labor was just guillotining everything with about 2 minutes debate. So we got to a final piece of legislation that was my legislation. And I got up to speak on it. And, you know, obviously it was the end of the day, it was raucous, and everybody was getting ready to sort of leave the place. And, you know, in typical Michaelia style, I may have been slightly louder than the rest of them. But former Senator Don Farrell stood up to take an interjection. You know, you basically stop someone from getting a bit of momentum. And I remember listening to his interjection and sitting there thinking, oh, I really need to come up with something good. And I'm thinking, what can I say? And it just literally came to me as I stood up. The rest literally became history.
The high point really is when you start yelling, how loudly did former Prime Minister Gillard scream?
He screamed as they knifed her in the back, yes.
As the sisterhood drank from the chalice of blood, reaping the spoils.
It's done very well. But again, a number of political elements came together.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what politics is.
But who cares who's got the momentum in that chamber?
Well, you'd be surprised.
Yeah,
it's really interesting because obviously the general public don't.
Right.
It is theatre for those particularly in the chamber, because a lot of politics can often be psychological, and you want that psychological advantage. You want to show your opponents that you can perform. And so often, you know, what happens in the chamber, when the public see it, it's very intense. But then when we leave the chamber, no. What happens in the chamber stays in the chamber, and once you leave the chamber, you should always assume and be an appropriate person and treat people with dignity.